Hallo Deutschlerner! The Konjunktiv II is used to express things that are contrary to reality in German. This often takes the form of wishes, hopes, dreams, and the like, but it doesn't have to be. I've already done videos about the differences between Konjunktiv I and Konjunktiv II, as well as a video about the Konjunktiv II used to make the future and present tenses using werden, specifically its variant würden. Today's video will start with a brief overview of how to use Haben and Sein on their own in the Konjunktiv II, and then how you can combine this with your knowledge of the perfect tense to conquer the past tense of Konjunktiv II. So grab your notebook and your pen and let's get started. If you want to say would have or would be in German, chances are you need to be able to use the Konjunktiv II versions of haben and sein. In order to form those, we're going to start with the Präteritum form, the simple past form, of each of those verbs. Then we add an umlaut and sometimes an e. This makes our forms as follows. Ich hätte. Du hättest. Sie, es hätte. Wir hätten. Ihr hättet. Sie hätten. Ich wäre. Du wärst. Du wärest. Sie, es wäre. Wir wären. Ihr wärt. Ihr wäret. Sie wären. You'll notice that the forms of haben didn't require us to add an extra e to the mix because we already have an e there at the end of the verb before the conjugated ending. The RCS form in the Präteritum tense was hatte, so the Konjunktiv II form can simply be hätte. The same is true of the du form going from hattest to hättest. The forms for sein, by contrast, generally add an e at the end before any conjugated endings. FYI, Duden lists both wärest and wärst for the du form, and wäret and wärt for the ir form. The version without the extra e is probably more common in speech, but it's ultimately just up to you which version you use. The e at the end of ich and RCS forms, however, is not optional. These are always wäre. Now let's start with a few present tense examples of how to use these verbs. Ich wäre reicher, wenn ich mehr Geld hätte. I would be richer if I had more money. This sentence uses both haben and sein in the ich form in the Konjunktiv II. You'll notice that the translation for the second half does not use would have, but rather had. This is a function of the English subjunctive form that overlaps with the simple past tense. You can use had in the indicative mood, the normal version of sentences, I had more money, now you don't. Or you can use had in the subjunctive in English and say, if I had more money. The difference is context. German makes it more explicit through the use of umlauts and changes in the conjugation. Hättest du lieber einen Hund oder eine Katze? Would you rather have a dog or a cat? Wärst du lieber ein Hund oder eine Katze? Would you rather be a dog or a cat? Wäre glücklicher, wenn mehr Geld hätte. He would be happier if he had more money. Wir wären klüger, wenn wir Deutschunterricht mit Herrn Antrim hätten. We would be smarter if we had German lessons with Herr Antrim. Hättet ihr etwas zu trinken? Would you like something to drink? This is not the usual sentence that you're probably thinking of. This is a person requesting a drink from someone without actually saying, can I have a drink? Ihr wärt jeden Tag verspätet, wenn ihr den Bus nehmen würdet. You would be late every day if you took the bus. Die Kinder wären lauter, wenn sie Schokoladen hätten. The children would be louder if they had chocolate. While it's definitely an option to use haben and sein on their own like this in the Konjunktiv II, it is far more common to hear them used in the past tense with the Konjunktiv II. Basically, we start with the same rules that we have for the perfect tense. If you don't know the rules for the perfect tense yet, check out the links in the description for my videos about that topic. If you would normally use haben as your helping verb, do the same for the Konjunktiv II, but conjugate haben in the Konjunktiv II version. If you would have used sein, use sein. Don't forget that the participle II version of the main verb still goes at the end of the sentence. For example, ich hätte lieber Französisch gelernt. I would have preferred to learn French. Wärst du lieber nach Spanien gereist? Would you have preferred to travel to Spain? Ich hätte mehr Spaß gehabt, wäre ich nicht zu Hause geblieben. I would have had more fun if I hadn't stayed at home. Sometimes it's easier to see the difference if we start with the indicative mood, the version you're used to, and then switch to the Konjunktiv II version. Let's try that a few times and see if it makes more sense. Ich habe die Lektion nicht verstanden. Ich habe nicht wirklich zugehört. I didn't understand the lesson. I didn't really listen. That's the indicative version. In the Konjunktiv II, this would be Ich hätte die Lektion verstanden, wenn ich wirklich zugehört hätte. I would have understood the lesson if I had really listened. Meine Schwester ist ins Kino gegangen. Sie hat kein Geld. My sister went to the movie theater. She has no money. That's the indicative mood. Wäre meine Schwester nicht ins Kino gegangen, hätte sie Geld gehabt. If my sister hadn't gone to the movies, she would have had money. Hat den ganzen Kuchen gegessen. Hat Bauchschmerzen. He ate the entire cake. He has a stomachache. That's the indicative mood. Hätte den ganzen Kuchen nicht gegessen, hätte keine Bauchschmerzen. Had he not eaten the entire cake, he wouldn't have a stomachache. That, by the way, is the Konjunktiv II version. An important point to make is that you don't have to formulate the entire sentence in the Konjunktiv II. If part of the sentence is not contrary to reality, you can just use the indicative mood. For example, hätte das nicht gemacht, denn hat Kinder. He would not have done that because he has children. Wir wären immer noch auf der Autobahn, aber Google hat gesagt, es gibt dort Stau. We would still be on the Autobahn, or the interstate, but Google said there's a traffic jam there. Now you know how to use Haben and Sein to form the Konjunktiv II in both the present and past tenses. Your next lesson should definitely be about how to use modal verbs in Konjunktiv II. I have linked that over here, so check that out and I'll see you over there. Tschüss!